Now, of course, yesterday came, 2 days ago, came all the big DC news, right?
Big news.
Big news. Way more projects being announced than I thought they were going
surprises.
to. Some big surprises. Absolutely. Swamp Thing was a big surprise. Now, one of the questions that came up, though, was, look, DC has done some R-rated stuff. Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, stuff not coincidentally connected to
Joker.
James Gunn. Joker was rated R. So one of the questions that came up was, I remember one of our viewers asked, do we think that the new DC will be a combination of, PG-13 and R-rated? Do we think they're going to do some R? Do we think they're going to do, whatever? And, the answer to that has been, well, I don't know. Like, honestly, I don't really think so, because if all these things are going to be connected, right? If all the universes and everything are going to be connected, then it's going to be very difficult for you to have, say, I don't know, I'm making this up, an Aquaman movie that's rated R and having Aquaman acting really R-rated, and then do a Batman movie that Aquaman crosses into, and all of a sudden he's not rated R. All of a sudden he's very different. So I wasn't really sure what they would do, but James Gunn has done a lot of R-rated material. Well, I guess enough people asked him online that James Gunn decided to address this himself when he actually did say, moving back, let me back up. I'm getting ahead of myself on my James Gunn related topics. We'll get to the R-rated stuff in a second. The second question besides the R-rated thing that everybody was bringing up is how much is going to be PG-13? How much is going to be rated R? The other question is this a hard reboot? A pseudo reboot? A soft reboot? Not really a reboot? I mean, what's it going to be? Dave Bautista came out the other day and said, James Gunn is starting from page 1. Full reboot from scratch. It's like, okay, all right. But now we're hearing that he's still talking. Jason Momoa saying, hey, I'm always going to be Aquaman. We're hearing some reports saying that he's talking to Gal Gadot. We know that there's going to be a Waller TV series, which goes back in. So is it not? Somebody straight up asked James Gunn online about it, and he said, well, it's going to be kind of a yes or no. He said this. He goes, nope, it's not a total reboot. The Flash does not reset everything. He said this, nope, Flash resets many things, but not all things. Some characters remain the same, some do not. I'll read that again. Nope, the Flash does not reset everything, but the Flash resets many things, not all things. Some characters remain the same, and some do not. Okay. This could mean several things, because I'll admit, right off the bat, my first reaction to that is a little bit of trepidation, because that could be very confusing to the audience. It's like, well, wait a minute. Let's for argument's sake, say Jason Momoa is still Aquaman. Okay. Well, there's Jason Momoa Aquaman, but we just saw Jason Momoa interacting with a very Ben Affleck looking Batman. And all of a sudden now there's this new Batman. We just saw Aquaman interacting with Superman, a very Henry Cavill looking Superman. And all of a sudden there's a brand new Superman with a different background and a different story. I mean, I could see that could be a little bit confusing to some people. Now, at the same time, the terminologies of soft reboot, quasi reboot, hard reboot, all that kind of stuff can become a little bit muddied, because we have seen TV shows and movies where something happens in the past to change the present. Doesn't mean everything is different. I mean, yes, it's a new reality, but just because it's a brand new reality doesn't mean that there are going to be a number of things that still look like the old reality, with some things being different. Somebody goes back in time, they come back, oh, they're not married to their wife anymore, but their wife is still there. Their wife is still an accountant. Their wife still has brown eyes. I mean, that's all the same, but it's just not their wife anymore. So I could kind of see it, and we're going to need James Gunn to give some clarification on this, but I can kind of see we're saying, look, the Flash resets the universe. So now it is a different universe. But being a different universe doesn't necessarily mean that everything in that universe is different. Just like we've seen in many other movies and shows like that, some things are the same. The White House is still there. Some things are different. Again, that's just my guess about how he's going to approach it. We want to thank a sponsor of this video, MasterClass. MasterClass offers classes on a wide variety of topics, all taught by world-class instructors at the very top of their fields. Each class is broken out into individual video lessons, usually around 10 minutes long. And MasterClass is completely accessible on your phone, the web, smart TV, and available via audio mode to listen to classes on the go. They have over 2,500 video lessons from over 180 of today's most brilliant minds. They're all available anytime, anywhere on iOS, Android, desktop, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku. Now, obviously around here on the John Campea Show, we love our movies, so why not learn filmmaking from Jodie Foster, or maybe directing from Ron Howard himself, or the great Neil Gaiman doing his masterclass on the art of storytelling. And you guys have heard me talk about my favorite masterclass, Business Strategy and Leadership by Big Papa Iger himself, Bob Iger, the new and returning CEO of Disney. So guys, I highly recommend that you check it out. Get unlimited access to every class, and as a John Campea Show listener, you get 15% off an annual membership. Just go to masterclass.com/Campea now. That's masterclass.com/Campea for 15% off Masterclass. Rob, you heard his words. How do you interpret them, and what do you think it's going to mean?
Well, I think, look, we know that the Flash movie is essentially Flashpoint. Yes. And they're using it in the same way, which I think is genius. I don't think they always planned on using it as drastically as they could use it now. But if you go back to the actual, look, the idea of multiverses or changing history, I mean, I hark back once again to Star Trek, 3rd season, Next Generation episode, Yesterday's Enterprise. In the opening scene of that, there is a shift in the universe, and a character who is dead suddenly is on the bridge of the Enterprise, and Worf is gone, and the Federation is at war with the Klingons.
Well, that was the Tasha Yar episode, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yesterday's Enterprise. Everyone went with it.
Come on, tell me you're a little bit proud of me for knowing that.
I'm proud of you for knowing that. I give it all to you. That was very, very good. But I think that everybody acclimated and understood what happened because it was presented in a way that was easy to understand. And with the Flash, from what I understand, there's a villainous Flash in this movie that Ezra Miller also plays. So I think the idea of a universe changing, and they're going to make it very clear this is a brand new universe, but some things I think are going to stay the same. Like, let's just say Jason Momoa, they retain him as Aquaman in this post-James Gunn, the Gunverse. I'll just call it the Gunverse. I think they would be able to then change everything that we know of Aquaman. Jason Momoa would still be Aquaman, but everything else could be different. Atlantis could look totally different. There could be whole new different characters that we haven't met yet. And you could recast the entire secondary cast of that film. And
theoretically, since I think the events of Aquaman's childhood predate the events of what Flashpoint is going to be.
Right.
It could be that, like, Jason Momoa, that I am Boba Fett is still his dad.
Sure.
And Heartbreak Feels Good in a Place Like This is still his mom.
Nicole Kidman.
And
just call her Heartbreak.
But then
that's a superhero name.
After that, like that he was dropped off there,
yep.
raised up, but then maybe everything after that starts to change. He never meets Mara. He never
exactly.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff could be different.
So and what's interesting is it's like when they, Flashpoint led into the New 52. And you still have Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, but they're different.
Right.
And I think if they did that, I mean, all you do, you could cut, I don't know if he would do this, but if you gave Jason Momoa a short haircut, and he was in the traditional gold and sort of green Aquaman costume from the get, and people understood that, it could be interesting because then he could also play the character less of, say, dude bro Aquaman and be more of a different kind of Aquaman.
But we love dude bro Aquaman.
I love dude bro Aquaman too. I'm just saying that his performance, though, could be subtly different or different in such a way that maybe, like you said, Tamora Morrison is not a lighthouse keeper. Maybe he has a different background. Or they could even go back even further, and maybe in Flashpoint there's different time periods touched upon. And when we come back, the Atlanteans are at war. In this new universe, who is to say that the Atlanteans aren't at war with Paradise Island?
Right, which is a trope in the Flashpoint storyline.
The universe. So they could do that, which, by the way, how interesting would that be? And then you launch into their Paradise Lost show, and it would deal with how did this animosity with the Atlanteans come about, because like in Game of Thrones, you need other lands. So wouldn't it be cool that you have the parallel of the Atlanteans and the
Well, that's where it gets difficult, because in the traditional Flashpoint storyline, right, Barry goes back, prevents the murder of his mother, and that alters time.
yes.
The problem, though, is like events like the Themyscira one, Paradise Lost. That happens hundreds of years before Barry goes back to save his.
Right.
So you can't change too much.
But unless
there.
you say that you could also maybe what the Flash does, because of the way he travels through time, that the time ripples go forward and backward.
Yeah,
Or
we can do that.
something.
We've seen that done before in things.
And even it's back to Star Trek, all good things.
Oh, geez. I think it's really a smart word salad, so to speak, by James Gunn to just say some things will stay the same, some things will be different. It's just going to be a, choose your own adventure kind of world that we're all living in for
Yeah.
DC. It's very smart on his part, because then people are not so married to one idea that it all has to be part of the same universe, or it has to be a complete reboot. And let's also be clear about something. Henry Cavill wasn't fired. He stopped saying he was fired, because he wasn't. They're doing a different iteration of a character that has been played by many different actors. And that doesn't mean that Henry Cavill will never be Superman ever again in his entire life. We don't know. And that might be a cool thing that we get to see in the future. But for whatever reason, the next step for Superman is going to be a younger version. And everybody's saying, well, you can't keep this character and not have Henry Cavill. Yeah, actually you can. Because at the end of the day, it all depends on what story is being told. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see several other characters played by a certain actor now being cast as younger or older or a different timeline.
We already know Batman's going to be one of the different ones.
I mean, anybody. I'm just excited because I feel like for and even somebody in the chat just said, my God, it's all so convoluted. How do you keep it straight? What I'm hearing is that you don't have to keep it straight. We don't have to work that hard as an audience to understand what's going on, because some things will be in a timeline and some things will be able to just go and watch and, go into the world and not have to do your homework first. And I think for a lot of people, that's going to be, something that draws them in.
To be clear, though, it is all one timeline. It like James Gunn has said, this is all in the same thing, and the few projects that aren't are going to be labeled as DC Elseworlds. But I think Aaron's right in the sense that I think it's going to become very apparent and very clear that, like you said, that one Star Trek episode is a great example. The episode starts and Tasha Yar is there. It's like, well, wait a minute. The timeline got reset. Some things are the same. Picard's still there. Some things are different. Tasha Yar is alive, and Worf is not the chief of security. And I think we'll adjust to it pretty quickly.
I agree. And you know what else they can do? I mean, in the standard timeline DC universe, when I was a kid, my favorite thing I've said on the show many times was the Justice League Justice Society team-ups. And Earth 2 existed. And the whole thing was started with the Flash of Two Worlds storyline when he was on the cosmic treadmill. So you could even bring back the Justice Society with Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate from Earth 2, and Henry Cavill could be their Superman.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do Earth 1, Earth 2.
I know, but I mean, they could.
I mean, everything's there and possible. I don't think they will. Anyway, guys, question is for you, my man. What do you guys think about this? Like, do you think it's going to be really difficult for people to wrap their heads around? Do you think it's going to be fairly straightforward? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.